Greetings, I'm Pillar Nexus Ancient Gladiator, and since my previous video plans have not been working out lately, I'm going to be talking about my silly little RPG that I designed long ago and I haven't really done anything with, and I honestly don't think it's all that good, but it's something to talk about, so here we go. It's called Pandemonium RPG. Life in the Demon City, Adventures in the Wilderness of Souls. There's probably already other games called Pandemonium. I'm just calling it this for my working title stuff. I'm always taking up ideas, so just I have whatever working title works for me. And if I ever want to do anything serious with this, I guess there's finding a better name. The players are demons, subtype initiator, as opposed to feral and reshock, which we'll get to when I talk about enemies. Um, your starting stats are from 4 to 6 points, the total of which has to be 20. So the higher the better. Um, reason, your mental strength, problem solving, knowledge, integration, and memory. Charisma, visual appeal, intimidation factor, social influence. Mobility for speed, dexterity and agility, flexibility, and stamina for constitution, resistance, and physical defense. The base stats are then calculated uh, in order to figure out your skills. And they are reason plus charisma equals diplomacy. Verbal conflict to convince others. Reason plus mobility equals tech. Mental conflict to operate device. Reason plus stamina equals productivity. Mental and physical coordination to create. Charisma plus mobility equals leadership. Verbal and physical coordination to inspire. Charisma plus stamina equals combat. Physical conflict to injure and demoralize. And mobility plus stamina equals stealth. Physical effort to avoid detection. It might sound a bit weird having those specific things work together or be the result of those things working together. But that's just the ideas I went with at the time. I'm not sure what else to do skills wise, but that's a start. So your character health is called willpower. You start with 10 points. You can potentially gain more over the course of uh, the session or the campaign. Uh, if you lose willpower, you can recover it over time. If you burn your willpower, then it's gone permanently. You'll have to gain sufficient experience to expand it. It's possible to have fleeting willpower, which you can only burn for effect. At 0 willpower, your character is considered hollow, which is dead-ish. However, things can go very, very weird. Okay, so the actual tests are against your stats 1d10, against your skills 2d10. You're rolling equal to or less than to get at least one success. And you'll get an additional roll to see if you can get further successes, which might matter in conflicts. And it's worth noting that the 0 will count as a 0, not a 10. Very important because you have to roll low. Yeah, well, I should note the bonus roll should be considered optional. We call it pushing. Because if you fail the bonus roll, you'll lose a point of willpower, which you can then just straight up burn for one more success if you absolutely need it. Also, if the initial roll fails, you normally don't lose any willpower, but you can burn one for one success, so it goes at least somewhat progressively. But do be careful how much willpower you're burning through. Unless you really want to go out in a blaze of glory. It's possible to have gear or other factors help with the tests. Like letting you reroll dice or nudge one direction or the other, depending on who you're affecting. Just straight up setting a die to a number. Your modifications can target yourself or your opponent. Um, they might directly affect a skill. There might be a bit of a program kind of check of if then else. Or if you've got someone else helping you, that might also be modified. There's a lot of stuff I haven't really figured out for the exact modifications from gear, but gear is a big factor. So, so the gear you can end up with includes runeware, which drops your reason, eventually drops your charisma, and drives you berserk, which makes you very likely to go into combat like crazy. Cybernetics, which drops your charisma hard, also drops your mobility, and if you hit 0, makes you cold, which basically kills your social standing, and only the people who trusted you the most are going to have even the slightest bit of trust in you ever again. Mechanica, which I originally had as hardware, but in keeping with the the stats that lines up with, I considering a rename to Mechanica. It drops your mobility hard. It also drops your stamina as well. And at 0, you are overburdened. At which point you're basically kind of stuck with what you have until you just do something about it. That one's the easiest one to deal with because you're probably traveling with other people, so you can have them take some of the stuff, but they better be people you trust or you might not get it back. And, if you're out in the wilderness with a bunch of crap, you're just kind of a sitting duck for who knows what kind of bandits and shit. So you risk that unless you're prepared to leave things behind. Then there's elixirs, is what I call them, to match up with the stat. Calling them steroids, but that's probably a major misnomer on my part. But hey, if you know of a fantasy term similar to elixirs that starts with the letter S, by all means, leave it in the comment section. But that stuff drops your stamina, also drops your reason over time, and too much of it leads to toxicity. Your physical state's in serious danger. You can't use your stamina skills, and your willpower is now fleeting. Good luck. There are ways to mitigate certain factors and such, but why use all this stuff that's going to drop your stats? Well, that's how you improve your skills. Temporarily, but massively. Actual experience will bring up your stats and bring up your skills naturally and more effectively. But this is a dangerous world. Sometimes you have to have actual equipment to deal with it, and sometimes no amount of experience is going to be a good substitute for having the right tools for the job. But yeah, if you want the tools to do the job, you're going to need to deal with the corporations. Ragnarok's Rune Tech specializes in runeware, which is produced from an element called destruction. And their CEO is Talvar, also known as the Big Blue Buddy, because he's a fairly nice guy, for a demon. And considering his products are generally installed by way of... Have you seen the ending to the first Diablo? Okay, it's not that drastic, but yeah. Insurrectron, which sounds like a Fear Factory album because that's kind of what I was going for, deals with cybernetics forged from an element called paranoia. And their CEO is Azuricon, also known as Dice for Brains, because he has a hard time focusing. He's always doing something unusual. There's Silicon Syndicate, which deals in hardware, which is forged from the element intervention. Their CEO is Arcanum, also known as Still Out Pigface, because he's the reason why the Syndicate went full corporate in the first place. And the old guard is not too happy about it. Finally, there's Tamzel Fist, which is actually a martial arts temple. They deal with the elixirs, which are made from the element called mutation. And their leader, Kalkazar, or sometimes Kalsazar, is the Shao Nihil of the temple, which is the highest possible rank. But the idea is be fully known as Shao Nihil Kalsazar, or SNK, if you get that. But yeah, these are the corporations. They're doing their business. They're getting their resources. They're making their money. I probably won't make a slide for it, but the money is like represented by jewels cut into coins. Amethyst, emerald, ruby, and sapphire in order of lowest highest value. But of course, they're beholden to the true leaders of the main city. The military Pandemonium serves as its governing body, local law enforcement, central treasury, and judicial branch. They're currently led by Grand Strategist Deva the White. Their former leaders start with the first. Narya the Red, who is an absolute terror upon his own people, to the point that his elimination from existence was worth celebrating. And that's due to Raksha the Gold, who made absolutely sure that happened, but sadly died in a wilderness expedition gone horribly wrong, whereupon it fell to Ashra the Black, who was mainly a researcher of his era. And upon finding out what killed Raksha in the first place, retired from leadership specifically to go deal with it and make sure things like that don't happen again. And if the threat ever comes back, it can be stopped permanently. So now Dave is in charge. Future leaders, I don't know if I'll mention them, but if I ever publish this whole thing, maybe. Anyway, a grand strategist commands the vectors. Each vector has their main leadership, and then is consisted of subdivisions known as interdictions. One vector is 4 interdictions. Then each interdiction is 8 coordinates, which are basic soldiers. So every vector is 32 soldiers, and has their attendant command and such. And they're in charge of securing the city and occasionally probing the wilderness for mining potentials and dealing with external threats from the kind of things the players might come into contact with. And that should be the... let's cover that in the next slide. So, I should clarify one thing before I get through this. Demons are usually brought to life through lightning. Lightning hits a spire, something at the base reacts, and a demon is born. Sometimes, however, things go kind of weird, and demons are born feral. The ones born the spire are called initiators, but the wild wilderness ones are feral. They tend to wander it and just try to fight. Sometimes they'll just burn through their willpower to do so, but their leader's a little bit more strategic and thoughtful. It's rare but possible to get a feral demon to go initiator, but it takes some work. So remember what I said about lightning. Well, if a demon is dead but hit by lightning again, they come back as the worst kind of bastards this world can create. Um, they become very disruptive of the villages out in the wilderness. They occasionally try to probe the city. Um, Against Farrell's initiative wins out, but reshocks are usually smarter than that. Um, they will fight each other over the dumbest shit too. Um, so it's what happened with Narya the Red. They they killed him, but they didn't completely destroy the corpse. So he came back, and yeah, I'm going to hold off on the name for him because that one's a spoiler if I ever get to make use of this game. And if demons weren't bad enough, there are elementals. Because lightning can, hit the elements and turn them into terrible monsters. Destruction is all about fire and moving fast and getting close. And just spread fire against everyone, or just cone of fire against someone specific. Mutation, slow, but effective with their grappling vines and ability to shoot out leaves and needles. Paranoia tends to stay at long range, just blasting stuff with ice. Although if they get close enough and you're already frozen in place, you're getting hit hard. And intervention is very good at being tactical with close-up blades and long-range bullets. Um, because they're so concentrated with their own elements, destroying them means getting a ton of the element you need to accomplish what you need to for the corporation. But that's a big risk. And speaking of corporations, it's possible you have to deal with goons. The corporate grunts just doing their day-to-day shit usually, but sometimes they start trouble. They try not to start trouble in view of the military, though, because otherwise things go bad. At higher ranks, they tend to use the gear of their corporation and use it very well. Occasionally, they end up released from corporate duty and become Ronin, and they turn to banditry and other shit, which means they're in the crosshairs of the military, which is not a good thing. But that's their lesson to learn the hard way. And finally, if you're at this point, you've crossed the line of what the hell is wrong with you. The soldiers that make up the military, like what I call them, coordinates. Yeah, don't fight them. Just don't. It's gonna, even if you manage to fight one and succeed, it's not worth it. The military deals with their own, and they very rarely call in for assistance. However, corporations occasionally need proxy warriors for their subterfuge and other sneaky tactics, so they rely on hunters from a program dedicated to ex-military, and they are legends. They have gear from all the corporations, exceptional willpower and skills. If you have a hunter called down upon you, good luck. And finally, the CEOs and the grand strategist himself, you're not even gonna try unless something has gone so horribly wrong. I've left off one thing, and that's something called the Underground. So apparently there are lesser corporations and businesses that operate on their own little rules. They're not contracted by the military, but they do business in their own way. In that case, you might be dealing with their goons, and you'll probably have better luck. Or worse. It depends. So, you're probably wondering what all the adventuring is for, aside from, getting more experience and money and gear and shit, and stories to tell at gaming tables in the future. So, the world that this is taking place on, there's a layer called the Decimatrix that is made up of a fifth elemental and is used as a network infrastructure. They plug in, use it as the internet, but something's about to go horribly wrong. The exact symbol I used for the Decimatrix is a triangle intersected with lines going from corner past the opposite side. You remember, it's from Dragon Sky. Yeah. Underneath all that is the vault. The entire world houses the vault. And one of the critical access points is underneath Pandemonium itself. But finding it is one of the hardest things anyone can ever accomplish. The vault contains things that are... no one really knows how they got there. That's a mystery I leave to whoever runs this. The one thing that is known is a list known as the Spider Corp. There will be 8 souls that survive the apocalypse of the world for the city of Pandemonium. They are on that list for reasons. What those reasons are, players will have to discover for themselves. It is entirely possible that one of the characters made by the players is on that list. But it's going to come down to what they achieve. What happens after the apocalypse? It's a story for another time. But for now, we are at the end. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Let me know if this is an interesting idea for a role-playing game or not. It's just some random-ass thing that I just kind of came up with. I have more story shit too, like the founding and everything. And yeah, let me know if you actually try it out and if things work or they don't work or whatever. If you fill in the gaps story-wise and make up rules, I like to hear about them. There's like some special characters I thought up for ferals and reshock and elemental and the names of the underground corporations and the hunters. I might share those someday if people are interested. But yeah, thanks. This is, again, I'm sorry for not doing the Baldur's Gate 2 video. I tried. That game pissed me off. I'm at my limit. I might just have to come back to it on my own time and figure it out. But I don't know if this video is a good substitute for it, but it's something. It's something. Something creative. Because we need more creative stuff on this channel. Not just playing games, but sharing ideas and having fun with that, Yeah, this has been Pillar Nexus. Again, thank you for watching and listening. I will see you another time.